man in a trench coat in the dark. A woman's lost a kid sleeping in the park. Rag suits, daggers, Park Avenue. Everybody wants to talk to you about just some BS of there. Just some BS. Just some BS of yours. Just some BS. Just some BS, yeah. Just some BS, yeah. Just some BS of ours.
You are giddy, but you're like unusually giddy.
I've been walking on sunshine since the exit poll. I saw that exit poll. I thought, thank you, exit poll, because I knew Labour were going to get crushed. And then the exit poll came, and I thought, well, they're always wrong. And I thought, well, that's, thank you for that last bit of hope. And then the actual results started coming in, and I thought, am I hallucinating, dreaming, or is this happening? Because my plan was, right, wait for the exit poll, go to bed, wake up at 3-4 in the morning, find Labour crushed, go back to bed, wake up and have
cry
a normal
work. Go to work, yeah.
Exit poll came out, and I'm like, fuck, I'm staying up. I'm staying up for basically what I want. Then I thought, right, okay, let's just wait for the first results from Sunderland and Newcastle. Within the hour, great, because exit poll was based on predictions based on seats, right? So they estimated how each seat is going to go. So basically I thought, all right, I'll wait for Sunderland and Newcastle to see whether the exit poll difference they predicted is correct. Yeah. If it's smaller, if it's much more tighter than they were predicting, then I thought, fair enough, exit poll is wrong, and I can go back to bed. And then it wasn't. It was just a bit, sort of. So they revised the prediction somewhat, but it was still a hung parliament. Yeah. And my God, I've never written in caps lock so much. In my life that evening, I was just jam, and then I thought, well, hold on, and then they said Amber Rudd's seat is going through recounts, multiple recounts, and I thought, I can't go to bed, I have to stay awake, I need to watch this. I eventually went to bed at about 5 in the morning, and then ever since I've just been running on Glee.
Hey! Welcome back to an all-new episode of the Just Some BS podcast. I'm your host along this wild and crazy adventure, the American Nick. Joined as always by the giddy little child, the man with the plan.
Welcome! Space communism! With universal basic income and justice for all.
The beer doctor himself. Man, oh man. Beer doctor, I don't even have to ask you. How goes it?
It's fantastic. We're not quite in paradise yet, but we're well on our way towards it. It's hilarious. I could not have... honestly, if you gave me any other option, anything short of like a 650-seat majority for Labour, anything else would be a worse result than what actually... I mean, we're all fucked.
BUP, we're fucked as fuck.
And we'll get into that. We're all fucked. But in terms of being fucked, I've never been fucked in a nicer way. This is just gentle, nice scent, candles, beautiful dinner, and then I'm fucked. And it feels great. Fuck me more. Sorry, kids. But, you're soon going to get free education, so you should be happy too.
I don't even know. I can't even respond to any of that. Like, there's no way. There's nothing. So for those of you living in a bubble, the UK...
the UK, yes.
The UK Prime Minister decided a couple of weeks ago, prior to Brexit negotiations that start in 8 days? 7 days? 8 days. Thursday, Friday, 9 days. 2 weeks from Monday, or a week from Monday. She wanted to have a stronger majority, to have a stronger voice leading into the Brexit talks, so that when she went to Brussels, she can be like, we are London, we are Great Britain, we are, West Hampstead, we have All of my troops are behind me.
Her election slogan effectively was "Whirr!"
Well, her election slogan was strong and stable.
Oh, that disappeared because that's
to be replaced by certainty in a world of uncertainties. She said it half a dozen times in her little speech at 10 Downing Street. Half a dozen times. I counted it because I watched it 3 times.
Right.
She says it 6 times certainty. Okay? I have never been more uncertain about anything in my entire life than her joining up with... I didn't even know who they were. I would prefer the Pirate Party, personally.
Honestly, this whole thing, I don't know who directed it, but staging Alanis Morissette's ironic in an election setting was a masterstroke. Because everything she accused Corbyn and Labour of, they are now doing. Yeah. Right, so let's explain this. UK, you might remember them for, their empire, for tea,
crumpets, Mary Poppins,
deals with Saudi Arabia. But recently...
The Queen. Recently, it was just her birthday, Her Majesty.
To boost the UK manufacturing industry,
yes.
We've started manufacturing. We're the world's leading producer of elections. And general polls. So we had, 2015, then we had the referendum 2016, we had also the Scottish independence referendum, and now Theresa May has called these snap elections, she had a 25% lead. The Conservatives were polling at 50% when she called the election. Labour were down at 25. How did it end? Conservatives had about 42, and Labour had 40. There was something like 1.5% difference between them. In 8 weeks, where we had 2 terrorist attacks, which normally people go to the strong Conservative Party in power.
Yeah, run to the one we know.
No,
they went, nah, Corbyn. I could get behind him. His entire party for 8 weeks. All I heard from his MPs, I'm not even lying. I read it. MPs saying, "Look, I am part of Labour, but I don't support Corbyn." And those MPs should be on their knees giving Corbyn a Hummer because it's the only reason why they got elected.
And in all fairness, Owen Smith, whom you might remember. Probably don't, because he's not exactly memorable. But in all fairness, Owen Smith, who ran against Corbyn in the second leadership election, he came out the day after the election and he flat out said, "I was wrong. I didn't think he could do it. He could do it. All credit to him. I support him. Well fucking done." Okay, I might have...
throw it in the well fucking done.
One of those words he didn't say. I'll let you decide which one.
Ooh, another game for the listeners.
Yeah, though this time we're not giving out any rewards. Not that we normally do anyway. We say we do, but we don't.
Well, nobody's actually won a reward yet. The minute somebody does it, they'll win the reward and they'll send it to them. I just don't remember what the game was last time.
I don't even remember what we wanted to send them. But anyway, so, in all fairness... So, yeah, I mean, what is there to say? The result is hung Parliament. Conservatives don't have enough... They still won the election, let's not forget, but it's a substantial clusterfuck, because they wanted a majority so that the Conservative Party, you have to remember, is more fractured than you'd think, and there's still a large chunk of them are Remain, large chunk of them are very hard Brexit, and a large chunk of them are soft Brexit. So basically what Theresa May wanted to do is to get a big enough majority so that even if people dissent, she can still get her stuff through.
Yeah.
What it ended is she's 8 seats short of majority. Well, not quite 8 because Sinn Féin, the sort of political, what used to be the political wing of the IRA, they won 7 seats, but they have a long-standing tradition not to take up their seats. So rather than 650 members of parliament, it's actually 643.
Yes.
But anyway, she's short of majority, so she needs someone to govern with. Which means, but even with the party they've chosen, the DUP, which we are going to
go into in depth because oh my lord, I googled it and I think I need to burn my browser history.
Yeah, so she needs the DUP, who have 8 seats.
I thought it was 10.
10 seats, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, it is 10, which gives a majority of 2 or 3, depending on how you're looking at plus minus Sinn Féin. 3 people fall ill. She can't pass laws. Mm-hmm. 3 people decide that they don't like what she's doing,
and they go over to Labour
or Independent.
Yes,
or
Lib Dem.
She can't pass. This government is not going to last a very long time, and the thing is, there is no one to form. So you have Labour, the Scottish National Party, who were obliterated in the elections. Well, not obliterated,
they
but
still have 34 seats.
They still have 34 seats, but they've lost a big chunk.
40 something.
21 seats they lost, I think.
Well, yeah, because they had 70 going into it, I think, is what it was.
65 out of 69, and now they're on 34, 31, I think, even. But that's basically they've lost almost half of their seats. Yeah. So Labour, Scottish National Party, Greens are probably of the same ilk. You have the Liberal Democrats, who kind of are in between, closer to Labour, but they've been burnt by the 2010 coalition they formed with the Conservatives, where they've went from something like 60 MPs to 8 in 2015. Now they've raised to 11, but they're still nowhere near where they used to be. Mm-hmm. They're scarred. They refused to go into coalition with anyone since then. Yeah. But even if they were to support the Progressive Alliance, as it's called, they still don't have a majority. None of them want to work with the Conservatives. So effectively, we have 2 blocs that can't govern. There has to be another election. Or some sort of grand coalition between Conservatives and Labour, which, as long as Theresa May is leading,
no possible way. I
don't see that happening. It was a phenomenally incompetent campaign. She lost nearly every,
she lost Kensington and Chelsea.
The leaders of but they won Stoke for it. It's a bizarre election.
But Kensington and Chelsea has been Conservative since the day the party, since it started.
The Daily Mail have a Labour MP now. I hope, it's probably not within the power of the Labour MP, but I hope their council tax goes through the roof.
It's just, that was the one where they recounted it 3 times.
Yeah.
But it was the first time, somebody just went, you guys, you forgot a number.
Yeah.
And then the second time it was, what the fuck? And then the third time it was just like, God damn Theresa May, what the fuck did you do to us?
Wealthiest borough in the country.
Oh God, yes.
And they went Labour, tax addicts.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite remarkable, and it is an embodiment. The guy who wrote the Tory manifesto also lost his seat. Amber Rudd nearly lost her seat. It was, if it weren't for the gains in Scotland, mm-hmm. they would have been in a precarious situation right now. Theresa May had to fire her 2 trusted advisors. They had to go demanded by the party. They're already mulling a new leadership election, which probably is going to be Boris Johnson if that goes through, which would be fun. One thing before we get into our new lords and saviors, the Democratic Ulster, Democratic Unionist Party, take a bow, YouGov, and take a bow, Salvation. Now, we've had polls all the way up into the election, and they were so phenomenally bipolar. There were 2 polling companies, YouGov and Salvation, mm-hmm. who used a new methodology. YouGov's, I don't know which methodology Salvation used. YouGov used something called the multi-level regression and post-stratification, or MRP, which is somewhat different from a traditional poll, which, you do your survey and then you weigh it based on demographics. What they looked at specific populations within specific electoral districts, if you will, and predicted specific MPs rather than an overall sort of picture. Mm-hmm. They used it for the referendum. They said it was successful, although they didn't publish it now. They felt confident enough to publish those as actual. They still ran traditional polls, which were showing, like everybody else, Conservatives having a lead somewhere between 8 and 12% up until the election. There was a consistent Conservative lead. But because of the freak demographics of this election, youth vote, and also just the unpredictable nature, I mean, people really alienated by May, and towards the end they were more alienated by May than they used to be alienated by Corbyn, so they switched sides. But this new model predicted consistently a hung parliament. And YouGov, the day after the election, he published an article in the Financial Times, and he effectively said, yeah, and we just got so much hate for it. I mean, I was mocked. I mean, we had our reputation on the line, and they predicted, you know what they even predicted? They predicted Canterbury voting Labour for the first time since World War One, and they predicted Kensington and Chelsea as well.
Well, I saw that, and my big thing was, so I'm at the gym, and I leave the gym, and I have no internet inside the gym, which is great, because I can't get messages. So I walk out of the gym, and I look at Twitter, because the polls have now closed. And the YouGov exit poll comes out as I'm walking out. And I'm looking at Twitter, and Twitter fucking explodes. I mean, it literally exploded. The exit poll hashtag was just GIF after GIF after GIF after GIF after GIF. It got to the point where
it's GIF for those of you who pronounce it GIF.
Yeah, for those of you that don't listen to the person that actually created it and says how it's supposed to be said. But it's fine. The one that got me the best was the Michael Jackson from Thriller when he's sitting in the thing eating popcorn, because that's what I wanted to do. So I get home, BBC News on the computer, CNN on the tablet. I'm watching both of them go at it, and it was what was the description of somebody with the results from Kensington and Chelsea's? This isn't a shock. This isn't an upset. This is an earthquake. Because it changed the foundation. For those of you in the U.S. that don't understand this, I think the Electoral College, you have to get so many votes at the Electoral College in order to be president. Now, during Bush 1 or Bush 2 versus Al Gore, Florida was up in the air, so there was no clear Electoral College winner. Now, in a hypothetical world, imagine that in the U.S. there was no Electoral College winner. So you couldn't pick who the president is. So then it has to turn around and it goes to Congress, and then it goes to the Supreme Court, and everybody figures it out. But if there wasn't that option of going to Congress or going to the Supreme Court, you would have had somebody like Trump having to go to Gary Johnson and say, hey, dude, cover your votes. Or Hillary doing the same thing. It wouldn't happen. So for me, and I told Radovan, the day the snap election was done, the designer of my office had voted for a Labour win. He bet on a Labour win. He was on Paddy Power, and he bet on a Labour win.
And may I remind everybody that at that point they were 25% behind, so that was an insane bet.
Yeah, it was 40-1, I think, was what he got it at. And I was looking through, and I saw no majority. And being an American and never having voted in this country, I just did a quick Google search, no majority, and it says hung. And I went, I can vote for hung? Why not? And so I bet 20 quid on hung. Completely forgot about it. And to the point where Paddy Power sent me a push notification to let me know that I won money, and I was so shocked I had to send a message to the beer doctor. Guess what? I won money. It's a... We say it each and every week, no matter what happens in the world and no matter what happens in this country and the constant flow of just complete chicanery that is going on, it is a beautiful time to be alive because it is so exciting and there's so much shit going on that in 2017, and we might as well get into our new leaders and our saviors and heaven. In 2017, a group of IRA members.
No, they're not. Right. So, the situation is as such, as we've explained. The Conservatives don't have a majority; they have to have someone else to govern with them. They're natural allies, or friends, as Theresa May calls it. is the Democratic Unionist Party of Northern Ireland. Now, if you don't know anything about Northern Ireland, what have you been doing? And Northern Ireland has had a lot of conflict, put it kindly, over the past century. And there are two big factions. The Republicans, which is Sinn Féin, represented politically, who are people who generally want independence from the UK and to join a unified Ireland. Mm-hmm. Then you have the Loyalists, Unionists, whatever you want to call them, who want the exact opposite of that. And since I guess Irish is a very complex language to master and to actually converse in, they've decided to just chat with guns. So we had decades of what was called the Troubles,
bombs
between what was the military faction of the Republican movement, which was the Provisional IRA, or IRA, as most people just call it, and then you had the Unionist, Ulster Unionist, various paramilitary organizations, the Ulster Defence Association, UDF, Ulster Volunteer Force, UVF, Ulster Resistance. IRA then we have the Good Friday Agreement. In 1997, peace was signed, a power-sharing arrangement, and we'll get into this because this is relevant. A power-sharing arrangement was concocted where every single Northern Irish government has to have representatives from both the DUP and Sinn Féin. Up until then, it was direct rule by the UK government. With this Good Friday Agreement, Northern Ireland was finally governed by people from Northern Ireland, but the condition is that the First Minister and Deputy First Minister, who are the heads of government, one has to be DUP and the other has to be from Sinn Féin. The heads of Sinn Féin were Gerry Adams and Martin McGuinness. Martin McGuinness died this year, and the head of DUP, the founder of DUP, was Ian Paisley, a Presbyterian priest and a very outspoken man. This was a landmark achievement. So that's a bit of history. The best way to describe where the DUP is actually, I've read this morning, in an interview, Clive Lewis, who's a member of Jeremy Corbyn's shadow cabinet, called them the political wing of the 17th century. It's a slightly tongue-in-cheek, exaggerated meme going across the internet at the moment. Is the similarities and differences between the DUP manifesto, which another commentator called essentially the Bible with fortnightly trash collections, where the DUP stand versus Sharia law. Marriage equality, both against.
Oh, yeah.
Homosexuality,
both against.
Both against. Yeah. Several leading DUP members of both the Northern Irish Assembly and Parliament have called homosexuality abomination. This is one of them.
Do you think, for example, that homosexuality is disgusting?
Absolutely.
Do you think that homosexuality should be loathed?
Absolutely.
Do you think it is right for people to have a physical disgust towards homosexuality?
Absolutely.
Does it make you nauseous?
Yes.
Do you think it's something that is shamefully wicked and vile?
Yes, of course it is.
Right.
It's an abomination. How much stronger a word can one use to...
Leave it at there.
This is
This was a member of the Northern Irish Assembly and the wife of the previous leader of the DUP. Once Ian Paisley resigned, Peter Robinson took over. This is Peter Robinson's wife. So they are against homosexuality. They don't negotiate on Sundays, which is why Theresa May is trying to get a deal done yesterday, because the DUP, and this is why there's always frustration with the DUP, because of their religious belief, fervent religious belief, they do not negotiate on Sundays. They want mandatory prayer days. Northern Ireland is the only part of the UK where abortion is illegal, thanks to the DUP. They're one of their, again, leading party figures wanted creationism to be taught in schools. So shout out to Texas, somebody perhaps you could adopt. They believe dancing is a sin.
Is this fucking Footloose? what? Okay. Look, I see the EU commercials all the time. I know Kevin Bacon's here. Does he have to go up to Northern Ireland and have a fucking school dance just to let him know that dancing isn't bad? They can have it in, like, Southern Ireland, but right on the borders so that the Northern Irish lass and lassies can come down, like...
And one of their incoming MPs has called climate change a hysterical pseudo-religion. He was the Northern Irish Minister for the Environment.
He must be friends with Trump.
So this is where the DUP is in terms of their views. Again, political wing of the 17th century. I could not say it any better. And you think, this is horrible. Or you may think, great, we want that. Please have them. Take them from us. Because we don't want them.
No one wants them.
But it doesn't end there. Fine, extreme right party, religious. Okay, there are people like that. They need they want to be represented. That party, 10 MPs out of 650 is not a lot.
Yep.
That party represents them. It is an unfortunate situation that is the only party willing to work with the Conservatives. But that's the situation. That's how democracy sometimes works. But this is not the end. This is... Recall where we were chatting earlier about the Troubles, the Northern Irish conflict between the IRA and the Unionist forces, the UDF, the UVF, the UDA, UVF, and UR. Unlike the IRA, some of these organizations have not disarmed. The DUP has not officially distanced themselves from some of these organizations. Peter Robinson, the previous head of the DUP up until 2 years ago, he was a member of UDA and attended their meetings and wore the uniform and called them a counter-terrorist organization. Not a terrorist organization, a counter-terrorist, a defense organization. Arlene Foster, the current head of the DUP, calls some of the UDA members friends. All of these organizations continuously endorse the DUP as their political voice. The DUP, in all fairness, say they do not accept those endorsements, but they are continuously endorsed nevertheless, and one of their newly elected MPs she made a sort of thank you speech during which she quoted thanked voters from specific parts of her constituency which are known for being associated with these organizations. So it's a bit of a, she wanted to thank them but couldn't say it out loud, so to speak. There are ties between these organizations and DUP running throughout DUP levels. These organizations have killed more civilians than the IRA. They haven't killed as many people as the IRA, but in terms of proportion, while the IRA was mostly, not always, but mostly, and I'm not justifying what the IRA did, as far as I'm concerned, they're both, either both sides are terrorist organizations or freedom fighters or whatever you want to call it, but both killed innocent people. IRA, however, as they evolved, primarily attacked political targets or military targets. Sometimes civilian fell and sometimes they got out of hand. They bombed innocents in London. They bombed innocents across the UK. That's not acceptable. In terms of proportion, the Unionists killed more civilians than political or military target. I'm not saying one is worse than the other. What I'm saying is they're equivalent. They are terrorist organizations that still have ties with the DUP, and they are going to be propping up this government. It doesn't end there. Now, if Jeremy Corbyn was described as a terrorist sympathizer, because Jeremy Corbyn has frankly had friendly ties with Sinn Féin, Gerry Adams, etc. Jeremy Corbyn is a declared Republican. He wants Northern Ireland returned to Ireland and both countries to be unified. And that's perhaps one of his weaknesses.
and the Conservative campaign played up to this greatly terrorist sympathizer. If Jeremy Corbyn is a terrorist sympathizer, what the Conservatives are now doing is getting in bed with terrorists. If Jeremy Corbyn is friends with terrorists, they are marrying them. That's how bad this is. And you know what the saddest thing is? We've done their 17th century views. We've done their terrorist links. It doesn't end there. It doesn't. It still gets worse. So let's do the coup de grace of this whole fucking thing. Northern Ireland currently doesn't have a government.
Okay.
What happened is you had what was called the... One thing I did forget to add, Arlene Foster, the current head of the DUP, defected from another unionist party in protest against the party support of the Good Friday Agreement. She didn't want peace because she didn't believe that Sinn Féin deserved to be talked to, and would have preferred war to go on. Anyway, but it still doesn't end there. So Northern Ireland had this scandal going on for the past 2 or 3 years called the Renewable Heat Incentive Scandal.
Mm-hmm.
Arlene Foster, the current head of the DUP, oversaw this at the time as the Minister for Enterprise, Trade and Investment. Now, what this scheme does, it was meant to boost the use of renewable energy amongst businesses and in non-domestic buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And what they did is they subsidized. They paid you for using renewable energy instead of traditional energy sources. They paid £1.60 for every pound of energy spent. In effect, as I said, incentivizing, paying you to use renewable energy sources. This wasn't capped. So what this meant is there were entire buildings and organizations that just ramped up heating because they were earning 60p on every pound of heating spent.
Mm-hmm.
The government was paying people money to heat. This has caused the Northern Ireland taxpayer £500 million. This scandal broke last year. At that point, Martin McGuinness, Arlene Foster at this point wasn't the minister anymore. She became the head of the DUP and she was Northern Ireland's first minister. Martin McGuinness, the head of Sinn Féin in Northern Ireland, was the deputy first minister. Martin McGuinness resigned because of this, as he said, I can't govern with this woman who's responsible. Arlene Foster refused to resign. Martin McGuinness resigned. But because of how the Good Friday power sharing agreement works, if Martin McGuinness resigned and Sinn Féin refused to take up the deputy first minister position, the government fell. Because you can't have just one party. It has to be both parties in government. So the Northern Irish government fell. What that meant is that the two parties had to come together and negotiate an agreement. They couldn't, so they called a snap election. Snap election was run, Sinn Féin gained seats, DUP lost seats, but DUP was still the majority. So they tried to form a government. Sinn Féin said, we'll only enter government if Arlene Foster resigns. Arlene Foster refused to resign, which leads to a slightly precarious situation. There was a deadline, which because of the snap elections here and other factors got extended until the end of June or July, I believe. If they can't find an arrangement, which they seemingly won't be able to do, Northern Ireland reverts back to direct rule. What that means is that the UK government rules Northern Ireland again. This is not good. If you want to know why this is not good, read a book on the Irish Troubles. Any book. Go on Wikipedia. Read anything about the Troubles, and you will soon see that direct rule in Northern Ireland is not a good thing. If Northern Ireland reverts to direct rule, things could get a bit bomby.
I think the biggest problem I think that our listeners, especially the listeners from like Louisiana, are going to have. Shout out to Louisiana, by the way. Jean, what did you call him? Jean-Pierre Lafont. is the quaint name that they give it by calling it the Troubles. So you think about it and you go, oh, okay, how cute. It's the Troubles. That, oh, let's be honest, that doesn't sound too bad. What really could be wrong with a little thing if you're calling it the Troubles? It doesn't hit home. It doesn't give you that kind of the fear.
Almost 4,000 dead in 30 years of violence. 4,000 dead. Sometimes monthly, sometimes weekly bombings. Civilians dead. Political dead. Fighting in the streets. No-go areas. If you look up the Troubles and do a Bing image search, if you look at those walls, look at pictures of Belfast, the no-go areas, constant fear, constant conflict. That's what the Troubles were. Spilt tea. Lots of spilt tea. Now, so that's a very valid point, Nick. Troubles isn't just... It's a level below a civil war, basically. But you had military presence on the streets, regular bombings, and as I said, nearly 4,000 dead. This, I'm not saying, look, IRA have disarmed apart from a few marginal splinter groups. Some of the unionist forces have not disarmed. In fact, the Ulster Resistance are proudly say that they are capable of taking up arms and striking at extremely short notice. So it's still a volatile situation, even though not as volatile, but you don't want to stoke the fire. The worst thing about this whole thing is that the Good Friday Agreement stipulates that the United Kingdom government is an independent broker between the two sides. The UK government is meant to be an independent broker between the two sides, someone who mediates between them. The UK government is now propped up by one of these sides.
Yep.
This is directly against the spirit of the Good Agreement. If this descends into direct rule, Northern Ireland will be ruled by the UK government, propped up by one of the sides in this conflict.
Yeah.
This is a total clusterfuck.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something some people realise, most people don't realise just how bad this is. Northern Ireland is without a government at the moment. This is the worst possible time to be picking sides for political gain. It's not the religious stuff. Fine. They're extremely religious parties out there in the world, and as democracy has it, fine. They're supporting a government. It's not even their links with terrorists. That's...
Everybody gives money. It takes money from Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is the... I don't care what everyone's saying about Qatar and everything else. Saudi Arabia is the bankroller of everything. Yeah. So...
Look, the terrorist stuff is bad. I'm not going to lie. It is bad, and that's the one thing I'm slightly unfortunate about Jeremy Corbyn's, that he never supported the IRA, but he favours a side, which is always tricky. Well, these people have declared themselves to favour the other side. It is just as bad. It is in fact worse, because they're governing with them in a very, very tense situation in Northern Ireland, and that's the worst thing about it, is that there is peace in Northern Ireland. Fragile, but increasingly strengthening.
Mm-hmm.
To put this at risk is utterly irresponsible and inexcusable. And as hilarious as this entire situation is, in terms of fallout for Theresa May and how it's going to end, and Boris Johnson being leader, and now the first post-election poll has Labour at 45%, Tories at 39%.
Yeah.
Which is an anomaly. Normally, it's the winning party that gains a post-election boost. The complete opposite thing happened. It's funny. But this is a very, very dark cloud that hangs over all this humour, and it could really spoil the fun. And I hope it doesn't get to it. And add to all this a special little brand sprinkling of gunpowder called Brexit. Cook at 30 degrees, don't overheat.
This whole thing is just like, if you thought, I'm having a bad day, and then you wake up in the morning and you think, you know what? Oh, I'm out of toothpaste, or you stubbed your toe. You're like, oh, that's not the way to start the day. And then you leave the house and a bird shits on you. It's supposed to be good luck, but you still got a bird that shit on you. So you're like, oh, man. And then, well, it is London, so it starts raining. And so you're walking down the street and a truck comes by and splashes you with water. So now you got water down half of you. And you get to the tube station and you forgot your Oyster card and you don't have your tap to pay. So now you got to figure out, okay, what the hell am I going to do to get to work? And then you get into the office and it was a bank holiday and you didn't even know. And then you fall down the stairs and hit your head. And then your dog pisses on you to wake up. And then you burn your dinner. And you slip in the shower and the bottle goes up your ass. Shampoo bottle goes up your ass. That's pretty much the day that Theresa May had from about 10 o'clock at night until she had to go to... This is my thing. She's sitting in the car as she's going to the Queen. And the funny thing is, where I work, I can hear the helicopter that was watching. I can hear it. I can look out my window and I can almost see the Queen's house. So this is all going on, and I went over to Green Park real quick, and there's a bunch of tourists, a bunch of American tourists and everything else, trying to figure out why they're blocking off the road because they don't pay attention to the election, which is fine. And I'm just watching, and I'm waiting, and I've got my phone, and I'm watching on iPlayer for her to come out because I wanted to go back to the office because I wanted to see it. And so I'm waiting. Okay, how long has she been in there? And they're doing a countdown. Oh, she's been in there 12 minutes now. She's been in there 16 minutes now. So I walk back to the office real quick. I get back in, watch it on the iPlayer, and she gets out to do it. And I think, what the fuck did she say to the Queen? Now, it's 2 days before the Queen's birthday. So the Queen's probably thinking, fuck all, I don't even want to deal with this cunt to begin with. And then she shows up and she goes, oh, yes, Your Majesty, I'd like to form a government. She goes, but how are you going to do it? Okay, those blokes...
Remember Cain and Abel?
Remember those blokes up in Northern Ireland? The ones that, kind of fuck things up for a little while? I think with them, and I make a few concessions, we can form a government. And, from the Queen's perspective, it had to have been am I on fucking Impractical Jokers? What the fuck is going on here? You gotta be kidding me. You're coming at me with this. I'm 91 years old. What the fuck are you doing? Philip's probably sitting there just going, shoot the bitch. What could you do at that point? Come, think about it. Go into your boss's office on Monday. And you go, hey, I just shit all over the office. And I lost every fucking client we have. Oh, by the way, and I lit the fucking place on fire on the way out. Is it cool if I get a raise? What the fuck? How do you do that? I want to know what she said. There's nothing that I could think you could say. If I was in that room, I'd probably give my left nut to be able to be in that room.
In all fairness, look, I know exactly how Theresa May feels. I have been in the same situation before.
Oh, really?
One of the most frightening moments of my life.
Okay. Story time with the Radovin.
Is when I was in the Cotswolds. I took a week's holiday in the Cotswolds.
Jesus fucking Christ.
What?
Most frightening time in your life, fucking alpaca.
No, it's not the alpaca. It's a different one. I was in the Cotswolds. I was there for a week just taking walks. It was great.
I remember this.
And I was taking a walk and it was narrowing, and it sort of got into these bushes, etc. But I either had to walk around a massive field, or I went down this path. So I soldiered on, and I go through bushes. It gets a bit scratchy, but soldier on, and emerge finally. The bushes end. I'm still on the path, and as it turns out, there's a fence to my left, and there's a fence to my right. Now I keep going. As I keep going, I realised the fence on the left has cows. The fence on the right has bulls. Which is not a very clever arrangement. There must have been teenage cows and bulls because they were horny. And they both saw me. And so they started approaching. And they went all the way to the fence. And they noticed that, oh, cows and bulls. So they forgot all about me. And they started howling at each other. Violently going, moo, moo, and sort of beating against the fence. And the fence was, I mean, listeners can't see it, but basically I had about 10 centimeters between myself and the left fence, and 10 centimeters between me and the right fence. And there was a line of bulls and cows in front of me. It was like this perverted zoophilic guard of honor. It was bizarre. It was just these howling, mooing cows and bulls just going absolutely mental at each other, whilst I had to pass through this, just faced with feral animalistic anger and horniness and schadenfreude glee from all sides. It made me deaf. I was petrified. I didn't want to run, just not to piss them off even more. So I just sort of cowered and walked between them, fearing for my life. How I did not pee myself, I don't know. Ever since then, I always carry a diaper with me when hiking, just in case this happens again. The whole thing lasted maybe 2 minutes, but it was the most frightening thing that has ever happened to me in my life, and I know that's precisely how Theresa May is feeling right now. Okay. Okay. Minus the horniness. I can't really imagine anyone's massively horny when looking at Theresa May these days.
Oh, God. Her poor husband.
I do find her an attractive woman, but I don't know. She had the strong and stable power thing going, and now it's just sort of this wreck of a person. It's kind of. I would almost feel sorry for her, and then I remind myself this woman hates the internet, and is forming a government with terrorists, and is fucking over Northern Ireland. And then I think, well, I don't wish bad upon people, but some people deserve it.
Speaking of people that deserve bad things,
are we segueing into our mass murderer of the week?
Well, he hasn't murdered anybody yet, but it's still early. This past week in Washington, D.C., former FBI Director James Comey testified before the Senate hearing. If I was Comey's lawyer, and he was a lawyer as well, if I was his lawyer, I don't think I could have possibly prepped him any better than he was prepped. His open candor, his use of vulnerability. He said, well, I don't want to answer a direct question to the president in a negative way, but it makes me feel uncomfortable, and yeah, maybe I should do this, but he is the president, so I don't know how to react to this. He came off as weak, but he didn't come off as weak as in, God, you're a big old sissy. He came off as weak as in, I can't believe this fucking guy doesn't know that this is not how it works. Long testimony. End up watching it through. The highlights, of course, were poor Senator John McCain. I don't know if he went and had a stroke, or embolism, or maybe he's getting senile. He is a war hero, and I would never want to disparage like that, but he keeps bringing up the past. The weird thing is the Republicans constantly bring up this, well, Hillary did this. Cool. Hillary's not president. I don't give a fuck. I'm just, at this point, I'm really to this. Every time somebody says, well, Hillary, I don't fucking care. She's not the president. She didn't win. Your guy won. Whatever she did, she fucking did. Sorry. It's over. It's done. Move on. It's like, it really feels like maybe they were dating Hillary, and then Hillary, like, cheated on him. So they're like that douchebag ex-boyfriend that's got to be like, oh, I got porn. I'm putting that shit on the internet. Like, that's the attitude that the entire Republican Party is doing with Hillary. I don't care about it. I didn't vote for her. I didn't support her. I didn't think she would be a good president. Would she be as bad as that clusterfuck orange nightmare we have right now? Oh hell no. Nothing could be worse than this.
Just you wait. Just you wait what the DUP come up with.
Here's the thing. And I told Radovan this prior to it. I saw, what did you call it? Meme? Meme. 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 On the interweb yesterday that had it said how to fuck up an election, and it was Hillary Clinton's photo, and underneath it was a picture of Theresa May, and the caption was, oh really, hold my beer. It was just fitting the way that she could completely catastrophically just fuck up this entire situation. But moving back to what's going on in America, or whatever the fuck it's called now. Trumpland.
Donald Trump presents America.
Yeah. So recent figures are out for tourism. There are places like San Diego, Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Atlanta, huge tourist destinations, Miami, Florida. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 60% of their revenue is generated via tourism. Since Donald Trump has taken office, and it's international tourists. Americans are so egocentric that they think, oh, we run the world. We're the greatest country in the world. No, if people don't come to America, there's cities in America that will go broke. They just will. Because their entire lifeblood is built off of tourism. Well, tourism is down across the United States, somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 to 45%.
Really?
Europeans, South Americans, and even Canadians are changing up their holiday plans because of, let's be honest, there's a dude that runs America that doesn't believe in climate change, that doesn't know how to spell when he tweets, and he has said, always make America first. So, and this is me reaching out to my capitalist friends in America. I'm a firm believer in capitalism. That's fine. Every Republican I know and every Republican I talk to constantly says capitalism. It's a capitalist market. It's all about capitalism. Totally cool. Right now, the world is voting with their dollar, which brings up another interesting thing as far as capitalism. Hear about Breitbart lately?
I know a guy there.
Yeah. You know about the revenue as of late from ad revenue?
Yeah.
No, it's down about 85%.
Oh, that's not good.
And it's a capitalist society. And people are going, well, you need to support it. No. Capitalist society. Let the actual community decide which businesses are going to strive and which ones aren't. Sorry, but Breitbart, InfoWars, and some of these other extreme right-wing, they're losing the battle because they don't understand the concept that you have idiot that writes for InfoWars. I don't even know his name. He had, I think his entire timeline was something along the lines of 47 tweets having to do with Sadiq and how Sadiq is weak because he said, don't be alarmed. Now, Sadiq put out a message right after the attacks. There will be armed guards at all stations. There will be armed guards on the high streets. Don't be alarmed. Okay? That was the reason. People wanted to feel safe because, hey, look, you're not used to seeing armed police everywhere in London. Unless it's Christmas time, then you see them fucking everywhere. But other than that, you're not used to seeing it. So he said, as just a warning, hey, don't be alarmed by this. Nothing's going on. This is just how things are going to be for a little while. Trump jumped on it and said, oh, look at you. You're not saying being a little punk bitch. Like, trying to say, oh, he's not even afraid of the Islam. He's a Muslim. Like, he really had a very condescending in trying to push his political agenda at the time of a horrific attack that took place. That only one individual out of the 8 that were killed was from the UK. The other 7 were European citizens.
Yeah, I was
like,
quite surprised by that.
And the fact that he would use that as a political gain, and as technically I'm an expat. You know, I live here. I'm a foreigner to them. And the Brits have, in some way, taken me in. Other ways, they get on me about the way I say aluminum and schedule and some other words. But, you know, take the piss out of me or what it may be. This is home. Home is where you live. San Diego is where I come from. Home is where you live. And it, to me, felt like, here is this guy that's being a dick to be a dick for no fucking reason. And then the entire alt-right backing him on that play. No, dude, shit just went down. Real shit. Shit where you and I go to. Where it's not one of those things where, oh, it happened in fucking Cabal, or it happened in Northern Ireland, or it happened in fucking Antarctica. This is shit where, dude, I was there yesterday. Like, what the fuck? Don't make fun of that shit. Don't blame whatever else. Don't try to push your political agenda. If you, I'm all for your freedom of speech. Totally fine. But here's the thing. Thomas Paine, who was one of the writers of the Declaration of Independence with Thomas Jefferson, in one of his writings, he had said, there's one problem with freedom of speech. And the problem is, it opens up the individual to punch you in the mouth if they disagree with what you're saying. Now, Thomas was kind of a badass, and he was good with a gun, so I don't think he was afraid of it. But he was at least smart enough to tell Jefferson, hey, we're opening it up. Yes, you have the right to say it, but realize somebody has a right to punch you in the mouth if they disagree with what you're saying. And I think it might be time, and I'm not going to start the punch a Nazi, Richard Spencer whole thing, but I will say this one. People need to be held accountable for what they say, and if it takes somebody punching someone in the mouth to let them know that sometimes you can't say shit, Sadiq, hey, make me a freaking diplomat. I'll get diplomatic immunity. I'll walk over, punch Eric Trump in the mouth, punch some other people in the mouth, can't be held legally responsible for it, and I'll come back, everything will be fine. I'm all good.
Punching diplomat. It's a wrestler persona if I ever seen one.
Well, that's just diplomatic immunity. Come on now. See, you can't, the only thing you can't kill is a head of state. Otherwise, you know, you punch somebody in the mouth, you punch somebody in the mouth. It happens. There's a bunch of Saudis that have that ability in the U.S., which is odd.
Please don't travel to Northern Ireland.
Oh, no, fuck, no. I have no desire. My mom's coming, I think, in September, and she wants to go to Ireland, and I'm thinking, yeah, we're going to be down in Dublin. And no, you're not meeting my mom. Fuck, no. That's no, because you try to seduce her or something, knowing you.
It's not in your control, Nick. Yeah, your mum and I Skype now.
Why did you move that and then put it back?
Because when you speak, I can hear it sort of slightly echoing in the guitar, and I thought it was that one, but it's probably that one.
Could be that one.
Could be that. Could be any of them. I mean, there's. But so I've removed that one to see if it goes away. It didn't. So I put it back up.
It has to be that one because of the direction of my voice. That's my only assumption.
It's not quite the sound I get from this guitar, though. Could be that one.
Just. So, also last week we have to, an unfortunate circumstance took place in Florida because, well, it's Florida. A individual walked into his office, shot and killed 5 people, and then killed himself. But guns are fine. It's cool. Just keep giving guns. As it is right now, there's 327 odd million people in the U.S., somewhere in that neighborhood. There is 385 million guns, estimate, because they can't, by law, track, according to First Amendments, you can't track how many guns are actually sold or manufactured in the United States.
What's the rationale?
Because then the government would know who bought them and who has them, and that is against the First Amendment right to bear arms, which the First Amendment actually doesn't say right to bear arms. It says the right to bear arms if you're part of a well-regulated militia. Changed in 1974 Supreme Court decision that said, yes, you can have a gun. The decision was a bit too broad, though, by the Supreme Court at the time. It was the 70s, and I don't know if you're familiar with the Supreme Court in the 70s. They did a lot of irrational decisions in the 70s that did really broad scope type things. Thankfully, good did come out of it, but also bad did. So you kind of got to weigh the good with the bad. But it basically says that any idiot, as long as they don't have a felony, can own a firearm. Now, Obama changed this with an executive order that said anybody with a history of mental disability could not own a firearm as well. Trump signed an executive order that said, oh, no, we got to get rid of that. As we've said last week, things like the London attack, Manchester, that guy in Florida, this nightclub shooting in Florida at the gay bar, Adam Lanza shooting up Newtown, or the Sandy Hook in Newtown. This was not...
It didn't happen though, did it?
Well, if you talk to fucking Alex Jones and Donald Trump, because Trump's a supporter of Alex Jones, I guarantee you it didn't happen. That's the truthers will get out there. Those didn't take place because of ideology. Those didn't take place because of religious freedom. Those didn't take place because of... Those took place because people had mental breaks, and they should not have had access to things that could cause mass destruction. And Trump, in his childlike, and the only thing I think of is it's childlike. He has no rationale of consequences for actions. When you're a child, you do something wrong, and then you get punished for it. But in the process of it, because you haven't learned yet, I can't do that because I'll get in trouble. And he has a very childlike approach to governing. So he does something, I didn't know I did it wrong, to which Senator Ryan, who is the head of the Republican Party, decided to say, but he said it in an interview, he is new to this. He's never been a politician, so he's going to make a few mistakes. We just got to kind of sit tight. He'll get the hang of it eventually.
Yeah, third term.
Fuck you mean get a hang of it eventually? You don't take that job unless you know, okay, it's fucked, it's stressful, it's this and that, I can't take weekends off. Okay. Well, fuck it.
In all fairness, they didn't give him an orientation program.
There is no orientation.
Well, perhaps that should.
There is no induction.
That should be part of the next one. Learn. Spend a month. On the job training, learning together with the outgoing president. Pick up the ropes, etc., and then transition into presidency.
So you want a transitional president?
Yeah, and if the costs are getting too high, just hire an intern to do it in the meantime.
He's already got problems with his fucking interns, so we don't even want to go down that route. Fucking Jeff Sessions wants to quit, and they won't let him. Trump said no. He wants to quit. This is a guy that's, begging to resign. The Attorney General's like, I don't want this fucking job. And Trump's like, you can't leave me? Come on, we're buddies. Come on, dude. Come on, homie. What you thinking? It's a state of affairs that, from seeing it outside of the U.S. to where I get to see all different spectrums of what's going on. So I don't see the bullshit, fake news. I don't watch MSNBC. Only reason why I watch CNN is for breaking shit, and they can say whatever they want to about anything. But when it comes to breaking news, let's be honest, it's the highest followed news organization in the world as far as Twitter. the CNN breaking news one,
right.
because yeah, you know what, they get things wrong sometimes, but their batting average is better than everyone else's, and so that's where I go to. If I see it on CNN, I go, oh, okay, I can look at it and say, yeah, that's probably right. Some of the bullshit they put out, they're a news organization, they're there to make money. Yeah, they put out bullshit that it is what it is. But as far as breaking news coverage, they've got it locked. And so I'll be like this. But otherwise, I'm, RT. I try to get a perspective, a world global perspective of what's going on in America, because the shit that comes out of America as far as what's going on with it, I just can't stomach it.
I can't wait for the HBO production of what's happening in this world about 50 years from now.
The Vice. Vice would do a really, really good... They could do this really well. I think Vice would just get into it. You've never seen a Vice report? They usually put them on HBO, but it's Vice that actually does it.
No, I've seen a few of them, but I wasn't very impressed, I have to say.
Did you see the Obama one? Where you gotta watch that one. It's really good. They get in depth of Obama, and he talks like legitimately about the struggles he had getting American Healthcare Act, or ACA, passed. The process that he went through to get it done, how he knows it's flawed going into it, because he made concessions, because that's what you have to do. Donald Trump doesn't understand that a government is run by the people, and therefore the people that have the say in it. So if you say, hey, I want this done, there's a checks and balances. This is, no, fuck you. You can't do that unless you do this. So you have to, okay, I have to make a concession here, I have to make a concession there. Well, that's what, because, let's be honest, Obama realized he wasn't a dictator and didn't want to just try to push shit through that didn't work. He said, okay, I have to make some concessions. Now, not only were the concessions, some of them good, some of them bad, the build of the ACA was flawed when it went in, because it was, shit, we have control of the House and Senate, we need to push something through because this is our one chance to actually get it through. So it is flawed. But like Medicare and Medicaid, which were flawed when they started, and now flawed because for some reason the U.S. government thinks that it should be run like a business. And I've heard people on the Senate floor talk about, well, Medicare, which takes care of elderly people. Medicare is over budget. No, it's not. This is literally the conversation that was being had on the Senate floor. He said, Medicaid's over budget. So he says, well, no, it's not. Yeah, we spend this money, this. I wanted to jump through my fucking TV and say, dude, do you understand how many old people now are going on fucking Medicare? It's going to cost more money. That's the way it works. When more people do something, it costs more money for those people to fucking be able to do it. It's not a budget issue. It's figure out where the fucking money's going to come from and pay for it.
Yes.
But that'll be a constant struggle that I have, because it's any kind of healthcare, any kind of care like that cannot be run like a business, and it constantly is. Anything good going on in the world news-wise before we get into my guy and get into where we're going?
Few things. Just a rundown of the odds and ends happening around the world. They found 300,000-year-old remains in Morocco.
Oh yes, I was reading about that.
So turns out we might not be from East Africa in the end. So I think in an earlier episode I talked something about how we're all from Somalia. I apologize. I did not mean to offend anybody by those remarks. And turns out we're from Morocco now, maybe. Who knows what they'll find next. A bit of public health warning and travel advice. If you are a bald man, avoid Mozambique for the time being. If you know a bald man and don't like them, buy them a holiday in Mozambique for the time being. There's a spree of killings happening there after a group of shamans stated that they believe that bald men have gold in their heads, And so people have started hunting and killing bald men, trying to find the gold in their heads. To any Mozambicans listening, I've sliced through the heads of bald people at university. It wasn't for fun. It's not something I just do on a Saturday. But I did not find any gold. If there was any, it was already taken. God damn professors. But there frankly is not much space, so any gold you find, those few nuggets are not going to be worth...
It's like the amount of gold that's in your cell phone.
The prison. So, yeah, again, if you happen to be male, there's nothing wrong with that. If you happen to have no hair, again, nothing wrong with that. But if you happen to have a combination of those two things and be in Mozambique, don't do one of those things. Just to be safe.
Just fucking leave.
Either travel away, grow hair, wear a wig, or cut your jackdaw off. I don't know, but don't be male balding in Mozambique. And finally, and this generally will only amuse me, but there we are. That's about 50% of our listeners anyway.
You don't even listen to the show.
True. I could one day. If it's a good episode, I'll listen to it. I used to live in Sweden, as some of you may know, for about 5 years, and one thing that always fascinated me is Sweden's pride in failure, which is something until you go to Sweden, something Swedes don't even realize themselves. But they're really good and proud of failing, and that's not necessarily a bad quality, but it's not a good quality either. I remember sort of going to these, traveling around Sweden over the years and going to all these sort of sites. There's the Vasa ship, named after the great Swedish king Gustav Vasa. It was meant to be the biggest frigate built in Sweden or something like that. It was basically the crown jewel of the Swedish navy. Okay. And the king was so obsessed with making it the grandest boat ever that they've overloaded it with cannons. So when they christened it and set its sail, it sunk to the bottom of the ocean and the sea immediately, and it lay there for centuries until it was pulled out last century and housed in a special building built just for it, because it was intact. So they took it out of the sea and housed it in this building, humidity control, and it's now a tourist attraction. You can go see the Vasa ship. I remember going to the Fallen mine, which used to be a mine in sort of middle Sweden, which famously collapsed, killing dozens and dozens of miners in it, and is now a tourist attraction. I remember Döda fallet in northern-ish Sweden, which the translation is Dead Falls, where a bright young architect wanted to basically build a dam and divert a river so that it would go past a village, which he did so successfully, diverted it so much, it flooded the village and many villages below it. And so where the river used to run is now called the Döda fallet, the Dead Falls, because it's just rocks where the river used to run, but the water's since moved on and killed people. And it's one after the other, and I was always fascinated. It's like, I kind of admire this. You go to other countries, you go to France, and you got the Notre Dame, you got the Eiffel Tower, you got the Sacré-Cœur, you got very moody achievements, byproduct of human achievement. It was interesting. You go to London, you got the Palaces of Westminster, Tower of London, London Eye, that sort of thing. You go to New York, you go to Manhattan, you go see, I was going to say the Twin Towers, but you don't get to see that anymore, unfortunately, because that's the one thing that's still in my head, is the iconic image of New York for whatever reason. But you go to New York and you go Empire State Building.
One American Tower now.
Is it?
That's what they built.
So is it finished now?
Yeah.
Fair enough. You go see that. You go see Manhattan. You go see Wall Street, you go see Times Square, etc. There's great things. And what fascinated me about Sweden is that their royal palace had marble wallpaper. So, the stairs were lined with marble sort of stair paper, I guess, instead of actual marble.
Mm-hmm.
And that almost every single monument seemed to be a failure rather than, an achievement of some sort, architectural achievement of some sort. And so now to top it all off, in the town of Helsingborg, in southern Sweden, they have now opened the Museum of Failure.
Oh, Jesus.
A museum that celebrates failure from around the world.
Okay.
And the idea behind it is that you display, things like the Nokia N-Gage or the Coke 2. Facial beauty mask that gives you electric shocks, an attachable barcode scanner. So it's something you attach to your computer or phone or something to scan barcodes with. It's pre-cameras. It's quite fascinating. A device that does nothing else but tweet. So it's like a little. Obviously, people can't see it. So it's like a little sort of. It looks like a BlackBerry, a light blue BlackBerry. But all it does is log into your Twitter account and tweet, and all sorts of other products. Betamax, Blockbuster, all sorts of other products.
Was that lasagna flavored toothpaste?
No, so that's Colgate tried to expand their brand. And, so the idea was that you eat a Colgate beef lasagna and then you brush your teeth with Colgate toothpaste and toothbrush. Don't worry, the people have since moved on from Colgate and turned to politics and ran Theresa May's campaign. And yeah, this is the beauty mask. Which could perhaps be the image to go with our episode, because
Yeah, just send me the link.
Yeah, will do. So yeah, there's a dedicated museum of failure, and you know what will please me most in the world? If that museum fails,
it'll be fitting.
Right, take us. What sort of mass murder are we going to?
Dennis Andrew Nilsen was born on the 23rd of November in 1945 in Aberdeenshire, up in Scotland.
Oh, a British.
Now, throughout his early years, let's just say that the marriage between his mother and father was rough.
Yeah. How rough are we talking?
Okay, so his mother, or his father, didn't view married life with any degree of seriousness. He was pretty much preoccupied with his duties with the Free Norwegian Forces and made absolutely zero time to spend with his wife or child.
Okay, so he was earning money for the family.
Yeah. Couple divorced in 1948. All three children moved in with the father.
Who was up until then absent.
Yes.
So the mother must have been quite for a court to rule against her.
I don't even know if it went to court. I think it was just
he took them.
This is how it's going to be.
Oh, yes. Decisive man, strong and stable leadership.
Now Nilsen, he was a quite adventurous child. His earliest childhood memories were of family picnics in the Scottish countryside with his mothers and siblings and his grandfather or his grandparents.
Scotland is a very beautiful country.
Now his grandparents, their lifestyle was described as pious, which would later be described as being cold and dour.
Okay, DUP supporters.
In Scotland.
A lesson to be learned, I'm sure, considering what's to follow, which I'm only imagining.
In 1951, Nilsen's grandfather's health was in decline, and although he continued to work as a fisherman, in 1951 in the North Sea, he had a heart attack and died.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yes.
Particularly if you're trapped at sea, that must be quite unpleasant.
And this is one of the things that was one of the most vivid childhood recollections, his mother weeping and asked whether he'd see his grandfather again. When he replied that he would, he was taken into a room where his grandfather laid in an open coffin. As Nilsen gazed upon his grandfather's body, he recalled noticing his heart beating strongly as he was told by his mother, "See, Dennis, there's your grandfather. He's sleeping."
Which college in Oxford or Cambridge did he go to?
Well, actually, he joined the army.
Joined the army? Okay.
Yes. So his teenage years were, it is what it is, but at 14 he joined the cadet force and later recalled viewing the British Army as a potential avenue for escaping his rural origins. Nilsen's scholastic record was above average, though he didn't stand out. He wasn't like a genius. Although he displayed a flair for both history and art, he was known to shun sports of any kind.
Oh, good man.
He finished his schooling in 1961, worked at a canning factory for a bit.
Does this guy turn out to be me or something?
Well, you'll realize exactly why I pulled him as we get a bit longer in the story. Let's see. In 61, he commenced his trainings at the barracks in Aldershot.
Okay.
He later described his 3 years of training as the happiest time of my life. There was travel opportunities afforded to him in his training. He recalled one particular highlight of his regiment taking part in a ceremony parade attended by both the Queen and Lord Montgomery. Now, Nilsen ended his military career 11 years after as a corporal. And between October and December 1972, Nilsen lived with his family and considered what he was going to do next.
Family as in...
brothers and sisters. Remember, he had 3.
Right. And why did he quit the army?
He just retired from the army. He served his 11 years, and he just kind of...
thought he had enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Is corporal a high rank?
I don't have any idea how it goes.
So he's meditating, thinking of thinking what to do next, weighing up his options, second chance in his career.
Yes. On more than one occasion in 3 months Nilsen lived in Stettin with his mother, voiced her opinion as to being concerned with Nelson's lack of female companionship. Other than the career path he should take next. On one occasion, Nilsen joined his older brother and his sister-in-law and another couple to watch a documentary devoted to male homosexuality. All present viewed the topic with derision, except Dennis, who spoke in defiance of gay rights. A fight
in defense of gay, or defiance or defense?
Defense.
Okay. Wow, that's a progressive young man.
Nilsen, after this fight, a fight ensued, after which Olav informed his mother that Dennis was homosexual. Nilsen never spoke to his older brother again and maintained an only sporadic written contact with his mother, stepfather, and younger siblings. He decided to join the Metropolitan Police and moved to London in December to begin taking courses. In April 1973, he was posted at Willesden Green as a junior constable. Nilsen performed several arrests, although he never had to physically subdue a member of public. He enjoyed the work, but missed the comradeship of the army. He began to drink alone in the evenings. In November of 1975, Nilsen encountered a 20-year-old named David Gallant being threatened outside a pub by 2 other men. Nilsen intervened in the altercation and took the youth to his room at 80 Talmot Road in Cricklewood district of London. The 2 men spent the evening drinking and talking. Nilsen learned that Galton had recently moved from Weston-super-Mare and was homosexual, unemployed, and residing in a hostel. The following morning, both men agreed to reside together in a larger residence. So they immediately resolved to find this place. Although the flat was supposed to be furnished upon moving in, they found it to be largely threadbare.
Well, yeah, you could put your own homely touches to it.
So they began to argue all the time because they began to bring home casual sexual partners. This caused a strife between the 2. Although Nilsen formed brief relationships with several other young men following the 18 months, none of these relationships lasted more than a few weeks. Between 1978 and 1983, Nilsen is known to have killed a minimum of 12 men and boys and to have attempted to kill 7 others. He would initially confess in 1983 to having killed 15 victims.
Something has changed in this narrative. It was going reasonably well, and then the last bit, I don't know, I can't quite put my finger on it, but it doesn't seem as positive. What?
Something snapped in him, and in his own words, because, well, he was interviewed multiple times. In his own words, he stated that beginning in December, he killed 12 to 13 men, many to having unsuccessful attempt to kill another one. Further search of remains. Where's the one quote?
Where did he live?
Oh, he ended up living in Highgate.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
That's nice.
I was going to get to that. He was, let's see, he had lived for a little while over off of 195 Melrose Avenue. And then he moved to 23 Cranley Lanes, or Cranley Gardens.
Cranley Gardens, that's just around the corner.
Exactly, hence the reason why I pulled him. See, it was bringing it all to... he encountered a 21-year-old at the Black Cat pub in Camden. They engaged in...
I think I know this, but this property was on sale a couple of years back, and I had a really good price, and I was kicking myself for not having a deposit because it was really substandard. Because he used to, this man did a lot for London property and for affordability of houses, because he used to dissolve people in the pipes.
Yes, he would take and use his iron tub to dissolve some of the victims, and hence the corrosion that was caused in the old pipes is one of the reasons why he was
caught.
Exactly.
Oh. How?
Pipes burst because of the corrosive material that he was using. It was fine with the iron that it was using, but it was corrosive to the copper that the piping had come out of. And so some of the older pipes around Highgate were very old because they'd been here forever. And the materials that he was using constantly running through had caused issues.
But, I mean, I assume these bodies would have been... So how did they... leaky pipe, how does that lead to murder?
You mean how he was caught?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless I don't want to break your narrative, so, you do whatever.
Nilsen's murders were first discovered by a Dino Rod employee who responded to complaints made by both Dennis Nilsen and other tenants of 23 Cranley Gardens regarding the drains of the property being blocked. Opening a drain cover at the side of the house, Catherine discovered the drain was packed with flesh-like substances and numerous small bones of unknown origin. Catton reported his suspicion to his supervisor, Gary Wheeler. However, as he arrived at the property at dusk, Catherine had said the supervisor agreed to postpone further investigation into the blockage until the following morning to discuss the source of the substances. Upon hearing Catherine exclaim how similar the substance was to the appearance of human flesh, Nilsen replied, "It looks to me like someone has been flushing down their Kentucky Fried Chicken."
That's some good product placement.
At 7:30 a.m. the following morning, Catherine and Wheeler returned to it, by which time the drain had been cleared. This aroused the suspicion of both the drain inspector and his supervisor. Catherine discovered some of the scraps of flesh and 4 bones in a pipe leading from the drain, which leaked to the top floor of the house. To both Catherine and Wheeler, the bones looked as if they were originated from a human hand. Both men immediately called the police, who, upon closer inspection, discovered further small bones and scraps of what looked like, to the naked eye, either human or animal flesh in the same pipe leading from the drain. The remains were taken to the mortuary. Pathologist Professor David Bowen advised the police that the remains were indeed human, and that one particular piece of flesh, he concluded, had been from the human neck, bore a ligature mark. In an interview conducted on February 10th, Nilsen confessed that there were further human remains stowed in a tea chest in his living room, with other remains inside an upturned drawer in his bathroom. The dismembered body parts were where the bodies were of all three men, all of whom had been killed by strangulation, usually with a tie. One victim he could not name, another he only knew as John the Guardsman. The third was identified as Stephen Sinclair. He also stated that beginning in December 1978, he had killed 12 to 13 men at his former address, 195 Melrose Avenue. Nilsen also admitted to having unsuccessfully got 7 others.
But presumably, didn't those 7 others not,
They were either homosexuals, and this was back in like 1970s, 1980s. So I know it's hard to kind of fathom and understand, but being homosexual in the 70s and 80s, it really was, if somebody attacked you, they just attacked you. You couldn't tell the police. There's a lot of places, especially there was a documentary I was watching about this guy that was killing gays down in like Soho area. Actually, he lived Clapham North area, like by where I lived. And there were individuals that went to the police and said, I got attacked by this guy. And they're like, what do you mean you got attacked by him? Well, we were engaged in sexual activity. And the police literally just turned him away. Because they just looked at it as, well, whatever you're doing, you're bringing upon yourself to do it anyways, so we don't care. And, I mean, later on, these are people that are, like, suing the Metropolitan Police because they're like, well, what the fuck, Like, you could have caught this guy. And you didn't. But unfortunately, that was the way that society was. Hopefully now we've kind of
have the DUP in government.
Yeah, we're going right back to it. Let's see. He was brought to trial on October 24th, 1983. 6 counts of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder. He was tried at the Old Bailey before Judge Sir David Crum Johnson. I always love that, Sir David. The primary dispute between the prosecuting and defense counsel was not whether Nilsen had killed, but his state of mind before, during, and after he had killed. The prosecuting counsel argued Nilsen was sane, in full control of his actions, and had killed with premeditation. The defense counsel arguing Nilsen suffered from diminished responsibility, rendering him incapable of forming the actual intention to commit murder, and should be therefore convicted of manslaughter. The trial goes on for a bit. Following closing both arguments, prosecution and defense, the jury retired to consider their verdict on the 3rd of November 1983. The following day, the jury returned with a majority verdict of guilty upon 6 counts of murder and 1 on attempted murder, with the unanimous verdict of guilty in relation to the attempted murder of Paul Nobbs. The judge sentenced Nilsen to life imprisonment with the recommendation that he serve a minimum of 25 years in prison. In September of 1992, Central Television conducted an interview with Dennis Nilsen as part of a TV series, Viewpoint, 1993, Murder in Mind, which focused upon offender profiling. A 4-minute section of this interview, in which Nilsen frankly discussed his crimes, was initially scheduled to be broadcast on January 19, 1993. Although the Home Office sought to ban the interview from being broadcast on the grounds that they had not granted permission for Central Television to conduct interviews with Nilsen, which would later be broadcast to the public, in claiming ownership and copyright material, Central Television challenged the ruling by the Home Office to ban the interview from the public screening, citing sections of the 1988 copyright, Nilsen remains alert to trade union activities and has repeatedly sought legal avenues to challenge real and perceived abuse of prison rules by wardens. October 2001, Nilsen brought a judicial review against the prison services, citing that homosexuality, softcore pornography magazines, Vulcan and Him, to which he subscribed regularly, had some images and articles of more explicit nature removed before the magazine reached him. The legal case he brought against the prison service was dismissed because he could not establish any breach of human rights. So it was a human rights violation for him not to get his porn.
Fair.
And it gets into everything that, like, it goes through each and every film made. Cold Light of Day in 1989. Tony, 2009, loosely based on Nilsen. The film depicts a North London-based serial killer whose appearance, manner, and dissection and disposal of murder of young gay men is similar to that of Nilsen's. In addition, characters in the film complain of the smell of the killer's flat, which he blames on the drainage system. So one of the things that I didn't talk about, because when I was reading one of the articles about it, every guy that he brought over, it was the Jeffrey Dahmer effect. Where every time somebody came in, they always said his house smelled like fucking dead people.
Right.
And, like, when I heard that, like, Dahmer's big thing was the first police that showed up at Dahmer's house, the smell overwhelmed them that 2 of the police had to actually go outside and vomit. And so all I can think is, he's bringing these dudes home from the club and they're fucking shit-faced, hammered, or coked up, or whatever it may be. If I ever was so gone that I could walk into a place that smelled like death, kind of deserve to get raped and killed. Like, that's a bad fucking sign. That's just, I'm sorry, but that's a no-no.
And horniness, it's a powerful, powerful drug.
So Nilsen's currently in prison.
He's still alive, is he?
Yes, he's still alive. Interviews are, people still trying to get interviews with him, but as it is right now, it's kind of...
So, you still haven't... I mean, is there anything to explain? I mean, as they explain as you
even
can.
Even he doesn't.
No. Why? Because, I mean, it was going so well. I mean, it wasn't getting so well, but, I mean, he had a career, he had a flat, he was, lonely, but...
He started drinking and just something snapped inside him.
Yeah, but, I consume alcohol, I live my lonely existence, but that doesn't mean that... Don't go through my tea chest, that's all I ask.
Hold on, and we're in Highgate? This is all kind of going full circle. Is there anything you need to tell me? Do we need to talk about anything?
No, everything is fine. It's just I have some private photographs in my tea chest, so just stay.
I don't want to even go near your private photographs.
I found the flat because I remember I didn't realize this was. But as you were going, and you started talking about the MO, etc., and where that he moved to London and where he lived in London, I began to think, is this that? And it is that, because I remember a few years ago. So this property at Cranley Gardens went on sale for £240,000.
Holy fuck!
It's grossly. That's £150,000 below market value at that time. So it was almost half price.
Mm-hmm.
Which caused a stir. I mean, to the point where it ended up in the Ham and High. And if something ends up in the Ham and High, which is the local paper, that's a bit of breaking news. Donald Trump's visit to Britain.
Sorry, I just literally got
postponed. We'll get to that. Just to finish the thought. Yeah. So it caused a stir because you just don't get flats for that price anymore. And I love the advertisement. Which is centrally located and within walking distance to Muswell Hill Broadway and its bars and cafes. Highgate Tube Station is within walking distance, as is Crouch End Broadway. Top floor, 1-bedroom flat in a period conversion, 10-year lease, home, accommodation, living room, bedroom, kitchen, shower room, WC balcony. Please note, potential buyers are asked to research the history of the property.
I already did. I can buy it. I did the research.
Yeah. Viewing strictly by appointment only.
All right, well,
I mean, I could just imagine someone going, so, any problems with the pipes in the flat?
How's the drainage? Is drainage good?
Is it robust?
Yes. Does it really flush things down? I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah. Sometimes I get a lot of Kentucky Fried Chicken, and sometimes I don't finish it all, and I don't like eating it cold, so I just flush it
down the toilet. So what do you think? Do you think that there'll be any problems with drainage? Do you have a good drainage guy that doesn't talk a lot? Maybe keep his fucking mouth shut for once. He almost did a spit take. That was good.
Yeah, I could just imagine, him putting up a Gumtree ad, which is the British Craigslist, need emergency plumber, must be mute.
No, that's like one of those things where you meet some mate at the pub and you're like, oh, you're a plumber. You need any extra money? Yeah. All right. Here's the deal. I need you to come by my house. You're going to clean the drains. How much would that cost? 100 quid. All right. I'm going to give you 1,000 quid. And you're going to tell a fucking soul what you saw in there. You down for it? Okay.
Yeah. Guy probably comes back home to his wife later in the evening saying, you wouldn't believe this guy just paid me 1,000 quid not to tell people that there's Kentucky Fried Chicken in the sewer system.
Breaking news, or it could be breaking news, it could be anything else. Actually, Sunday, no, pretty much breaking news. Donald Trump has told Theresa May in a phone call he does not want to go ahead with a state visit to Britain until the British public supports him coming. So we will never have to have Donald Trump over.
Hold on, repeat that?
Donald Trump, Jesus, no, God, I really hate this thing sometimes. Discard. Donald Trump has told Theresa May in a phone call he does not want to go ahead with a state visit.
So it's Trump postponing it
until the British public supports him coming. The U.S. president said he did not want to come if there was large-scale protests, and his remarks in effect put the visit on hold for some time. The call was made in recent weeks, according to the Downing Street supervisor who was in the room. The statement surprised May, according to those present. The conversation in part explains why there has been little discussion. May invited Trump to Britain 7 days after his inauguration, when she became the first foreign leader to visit the White House. She told the joint press conference she has extended an invitation from the Queen to Trump and his wife Melania to make a state visit in the year, and was delighted that the president had accepted the offer. Many senior diplomats, including Lord Ricketts, the former national security advisor, said the invitation was premature but impossible to rescind once made. Trump has named Woody Johnson, a Republican donor, the owner of the New York Jets, as the new ambassador to the UK, but has yet to nominate him formally. The acting U.S. ambassador to the UK, Louis Lukens, a career diplomat, clashed with Trump last week by praising Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, for his strong leadership over the London Bridge. His remarks came just days after Trump criticized Khan for his response to the attack, misquoting the mayor's message to the Londoners not to be alarmed by the increased presence of armed police. Khan's office pointed out Trump's error later, but the president responded by accusing London's mayor of making a pathetic excuse. Khan then called the UK government to cancel Trump's invitation. No date has been fixed for that visit. The Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, said on Twitter that Trump's decision was welcome, especially after his attack on London's mayor and withdrawal from the Paris climate deal. A Downing Street spokesman said it would not comment. We aren't going to comment on speculation about the contents of private phone conversations. The Queen extended an invitation to the President Trump to visit the UK, and there's no change to those plans. So the snowflake is scared because he realizes that all of Britain is going to give him a middle finger when he shows up, because, hey, we're all about free speech and, come on over, but just know that, yeah, your kind's not wanted here. I think that's good. I think it shows him that, I think it shows the world now that if he doesn't get his way and if everybody doesn't like him, and I was discussing this with the designer at work, I truly believe, and I figured it out now, who Donald Trump is. He is the real life Eric Cartman. That's... Screw you guys, I'm going home. Every action he does is Cartman-esque.
Respect my authority!
Yeah. Everything he does is Cartman-esque.
So are you saying that he's going to adopt a superhero persona called the Coon?
Probably already has. At this point, the White House is going to just be the few people from Breitbart that are still there, Bannon, and his family. Because he hasn't appointed anybody to do anything else. There's nobody else there. And no one's volunteering to go work at that fucking White House. I'm sorry, they're just not. He's Cartman. He truly is Cartman. I'm just waiting to see.
Poor Barbara Streisand. That's not going to end very well for her.
Well, she did speak out against him already, so...
Did she?
Yeah, among other people.
Just don't turn into a mechanized dinosaur.
Oh, I know. Now, we've come to the time when if you have your holiday plans, if you have annual leave coming up, or if you're in the States and you've worked that, 947 hours that you need to work in order to get your 3 days of paid holiday, and you're going to combine it with a weekend and fly somewhere in the world, Radovan is going to tell us where not to go.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to tell you not to go there. But, you should go for a visit, but, yeah. Bits and pieces of it. This week we are travelling to a birthplace of many greats.
Okay.
We are travelling to the birthplace of the man who wrote the soundtrack to the Milos Forman film Amadeus. Mm-hmm. We're travelling to the birthplace of the man who wrote the music to the space level of the Lemmings. Birthplace of the gentleman who finally made it comfortable for us to proudly say all we want to do in our lives is to shag our mothers and our fathers. And the birthplace of quite possibly the world's most famous box dweller. Not me. Yes, that is you. Nick, where are we going this week?
Austria?
Yeah! Yes, we are going to Austria. Settle down, Hitler. Yes, we are travelling to Austria, as one is wont to do. Obviously, the box dwellers are... I mean, it's okay to be friends with terrorists, so let's just say a good friend Adolf Hitler.
No. You can live and die on that mountain. I'm not going there. I have been to Auschwitz.
Then the person who's made it all right to shag our mother, Sigmund Freud.
No. Freud's all fucked up to begin with.
Lemmings music is Johann Strauss, and finally the guy who wrote the soundtrack to Amadeus, obviously none other than Johann Sebastian Bach.
Which, nothing's wrong with Bach, really.
Or
well,
some people might say Mozart, but Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, but I don't think it was Mozart who wrote the soundtrack to Amadeus. But anyway, so we're going to Austria.
Yep.
Nice place.
Beautiful country.
Yeah. Yeah, very pretty. Vienna, obviously very pretty. Alps, Tyrol, all sorts of, love beautiful countryside. And frankly, not much going on. I was looking for stories. There is very little going on. One thing that jumped out, and it illustrates perhaps your crassness, Nick, and your insensitive nature. As earlier in this episode, I was recalling my unfortunate incident with the cows and the bulls, and comparing this to the fate of Miss May and how she must be feeling. And you just frankly laughed in my face.
I did.
And
You're afraid of a cow.
I did not appreciate that, and I found it a bit hurtful. And just to illustrate just how hurtful it could have been to me is a story which is big news in Austria, where a cow gored a hiker in the Austrian Alps. A woman died, and that was just a single cow. I was surrounded by the fuckers.
Now, was it a cow or a bull?
It says a cow.
Ah.
They're walking through a pasture in the Tyrol region.
Was she wearing red?
Oh my God! It's a repeat. It also happened in 2014. So cow the murderers. Nothing. It's nothing to laugh about, Nicholas.
So you're saying that there has been a rash of murderous cow.
There's some sick cow out there, going around.
So there's a serial killer cow.
But well, look, it happened not long ago. The police haven't released a statement saying whether that's a terrorist attack or not, or whether it's just a.
Well, for America, we'd assume it was.
Whether it's just a lone cow or whether it's part of a wider network of, frankly, very unhinged cows. But I wouldn't be surprised because it's a repeat incident, and frankly, either it's a very good copycat, or there's something going on. What happened to me was no accident. What was an accident is that I got out of it alive.
Oh, okay. So
and
it's
you
a
are
conspiracy.
You are laughing now. It's a cowspiracy. It's also a film about something different. No, actually, yeah, no. Go watch Cowspiracy. It's a documentary film made last year or 2 years ago, something like that, about murderous cows and why we need to get rid of them.
But they are already getting rid of them.
They're good. Eat a burger, save a life.
That's a T-shirt slogan right there.
Although I'm technically half vegan, but that doesn't matter. So that's that. The other big piece of news is, and this is how boring Austria is at the moment, but it's going to get exciting, and we'll get to that, is, as you may have heard, Italy, which is a country we're going to cover at some point in 2019, they've made vaccinations mandatory for children before they enter the public school system, which has angered a lot of DUP supporters. A
lot of the alt-right.
In Italy.
In the US. Former Playboy playmate Jenny McCarthy.
Oh, yeah. So there's a group of 130 families living in North Italy, in a region that used to be Austria, who are planning to go to Austria to seek asylum because they feel their rights are being persecuted by this inhumane government. Not even going to dignify with calling it a policy. It's a sick, twisted initiative to cure diseases.
To stop the spread of disease and death.
Look, where I live, Highgate, is our bread and butter. What keeps our community going is the tourism. We have a pretty awesome, and I'm happy to brag about this, we have a pretty awesome cemetery. This cemetery needs support. We need dead people. And if everyone's vaccinated, people are just going to keep on living forever. And it's going to unravel the very fabric of my local community. And it's the pipe smelling again. Anyway, we need to support our cemetery. You seem disturbed, Nick. Would you care for a cup of tea?
No, I don't trust you. Your reasoning for not vaccinating is so that the cemetery we can see from your balcony continues to be full?
Yes. We need a steady supply.
But it's the tourism, living people, that go to the cemetery.
Yeah, but they pay more to get buried there. So, in fact, it's better if the tourists stay, if you know what I mean.
What else is going on in Austria? Just tell me something about Austria.
Now, Austria, you might not know this, but Austria has a bit of a history of right-wing politics.
Oh, just a little bit.
Before turning to a career of as the world's first boxed-in comedian, Adolf Hitler used to be a politician.
Yeah.
Born in Austria, and he was a divisive figure. Made some controversial choices, for which he was, for a while, suicided until he came back in a box. And also, so Austria now has what's called the Freedom Party, which is a kind of an Austrian version of the Swedish Democrats, the National Front in France, the BNP here, the Republican Party in the United States. Yeah, it's a pretty far right thing, and they've been. Oh, you're right, Nick.
No, you broke me.
We broke Nick. I'll just have to get a new one.
You threw that one on me. Oh,
I thought you could spot it from a mile away. Anyway,
I was actually just kind of following the trail, and then all of a sudden, when you threw the far.
Am I wrong or am I wrong or am I right? I'm right.
Well.
Anyway, but I mean they're equally popular. I mean they're very popular, and they've burst onto the scene some 10-15 years ago now, where they made massive gains in an election. And some listeners, quite possibly not the ones from Louisiana, no offense, but you have New Orleans around the corner. Why would you follow news? Frankly, I wouldn't. There was a presidential election, actually two presidential elections in Austria, because the first one was ruled invalid, but it is basically between they had the sort of French-style presidential election where you had the first round with everyone running, and the top two people then go on to a playoff in the second round. And there's like a big Super Bowl and show, etc. Britney Spears sings.
Simon Cowell says, green buzzer.
Britney Spears now has hair. Why? Because she wanted to go to Mozambique. So it was a big one of those big political battles all Europeans were watching last year, was whether the Green candidate, who was substantially to the left side of the spectrum, and the far right candidate, which one would win. And narrowly the left candidate won twice, the Green Party candidate. But the Freedom Party is extremely popular, and they are projected to win the elections in October. They currently poll at around 30%. And so this kind of hangs over Austrian politics, where all the other parties try to. It's again the Swedish Democrat effect, which is a similar thing happening in Sweden, where mainstream parties. Well, I mean, the Freedom Party is now a mainstream party. They ran on a very strict anti-immigration, anti-Islam platform. They're now the biggest party in Austria, according to opinion polls. So all the other parties are trying to adopt the less extreme policies or address the issues that the Freedom Party brings, so as to steal back the votes and prevent a rather unsavory possibility of this party actually ruling Austria. One of those things is which is quite possibly the big story in Austria this week, is that they will be banning the burqa in public spaces from October the 1st. And again, this would be to seem tough on immigration in Islam. Whether this will work, well, elections are in October, so we'll see. Anyone caught wearing a burqa in a public space, so this includes government offices, schools and workplaces, will be fined 150 euros. So yeah, that's what's happening in Austria. So a pretty place, lots of things to see, but Austria is plagued by a pest, unwanted visitors with extremist beliefs who are hunting the local populace, are intent on destroying anyone who doesn't share their perverted sense of belief. Obviously, I'm talking about the cows. So that's what's plaguing the countryside, and the urban areas are plagued by this political battle. So it's a lovely place to visit, but it's as anywhere, frankly, it's an interesting and defining time.
Be sure to go to jsbspod.com. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/JSBSpod. Like us on Twitter @JSBSpod. You can find us on Instagram @JSBSpod.
Throw some money at us on chatterbait.com.
Actually, it's patreon.com/JSBSpod.
We should so do a cam show.
A what?
A cam show. Have you not heard of Chatterbait?
No.
Chatterbait is a platform where you can go on camera and disrobe, and people throw money at you.
To put money back. No, stop. Because I'm going to have to see this shit when I edit it, so just stop. Don't.
This is as much as you're getting.
That's fine.
But start.
Believe people will start throwing money to have you put it back on.
Either way. It stays like this. Whichever way it goes, that's up to you.
All right. Well, go to patreon.com/JSBSpod. Also, if you go to jsbspod.com, you will find a donate button that you can click and donate directly if you do not want to. It's just a PayPal button. If you don't want to go through the whole process of Patreon. Again, thank you for listening. Be sure to leave reviews on iTunes or any other podcast catcher that you listen to this on. And just remember, it is a crazy, wild, funky world that we live in, but
we must unite to fight the cow danger.
It's a cowspiracy. That's been roughly an hour and 45 minutes of your life you're never gonna get back.
All rise. Thank you, good comrades of Kensington, Canterbury, East Lothian, Mid Lothian, Glasgow East, Durham Northwest, Bishop Auckland, High Peak, Colne Valley, Oldham Western Royton, Oldham East and Saddleworth, Hackney, Holborn and St Pancras, Bury South, Lee, St Helens North, Warrington South. I can't pronounce that one. Delhi. Ogmore. Rhondda. Oh, fuck, why did I go to Wales? Chinkford and Woodford Green. Edmonton. Hammersmith. Ealing Central and Acton. Ealing Southall. Wentworth and Dean, Rotherham, and so forth. Soon, comrades, soon.